Hey there, welcome back to Featherwood Farm. We're going to do the February garden tour. It is the second to last day of the month, so just barely squeezing it in. Not a ton to see, but some of the bulbs are starting to push through. It's been an unseasonably warm month. Actually, today is going to be 70 degrees. It's already like 60 and it's 8 in the morning. So it feels great, but yeah, so some unusual things happening in the garden. And we're going to start in the cottage garden. This is where the majority of the tulip bulbs are. They're planted in the raised beds, and we have a lot that are really starting to pop up. As you can see, these ones were the first, and I would have to consult my notes. I'll put it up on the screen to say which variety these are. I don't remember right offhand, but most look kind of like this, just the little peaks coming through. And yeah, this is just a piece of scrap fencing that I threw over to keep the squirrels and the deer away until I can get the picket fence built. And you can't tell from a distance, but all three of these beds are completely planted and nearly everything is starting to emerge. So these ones are a little bit further along there. And what's nice about the farm compost that we're using is, even though it's not entirely finished compost, it's acting as a mulch as well as a fertilizer right now. Not much to look at over here, but I do have so many projects coming up this year. One is going to be to move the ceramic coop. I'm hoping to move it to the corner over here behind the workshop, and then the picket fence is actually going to kind of cut through the center of where that is, so it's going to be moved in maybe 6-7 feet or so and then go around. And I have stakes lined up, just roughly placed kind of in the front here, so it's going to be a few feet further out than the existing fence is now. And then there'll be the gate. I'm actually hoping I can do that like this week or the next, so I've been gathering all my 4x4s, and it'll keep the same path as the fence is currently right there. Just come up to this corner. Should be quite lovely. And if this weather stays nice, which the forecast says it will, then I should have no problem knocking that out. I also put in some daffodil bulbs and the entrance to the greenhouse. Again, couldn't tell you the varieties. I would have to look at my notes. I just threw stuff in places. The daffodils I wasn't really concerned about keeping track of what was what and where. A whole bunch coming through. Over here though, you can see the deer have been in here. And some of these are actually alliums as well. The swing set is not going to stay there. It will be moved. But I don't think that I have actually shared that last autumn we had the walnut tree and the maple tree removed. So the maple tree was dying. It was on its last leg, and we didn't want it to end up falling on the roof of the garage. So we had that one taken out. We figured while he was here, we would take out the walnut because I hate it. So for the walnut lovers out there, don't worry. There are about 40 more on our property. In this front patch up here, again, lots of daffodils coming up and a few alliums. Not much to see up here structure-wise. I think that I would actually like to make this kind of a shrub hedge border using just ones that I picked up on clearance last year, throwing them in. I would like that. I have the red twig dogwood, as well as the 3 tiny wine gold 9-bark on that side. And right here is a hummingbird clethra, a button bush, and oh goodness, a ruby spice clethra that didn't actually bloom pink, it bloomed white. And they have been there for a few years and they're not performing well. I think it's because of our alkaline soil. They would prefer acidic soil. So I'm going to take those out. They've kind of had their chance. I'll put something else in. All right, and coming into the orchard garden, my chickens got in here, and so they kind of uncovered the leaf mulch from these beds. But along the outsides of this bed, it's kind of hard to see the definition of it, but are planted in all the daffodil bulbs, which are all emerging. I'm sure that tag was marking something. Actually, yes, that tag was marking where I planted peonies. So I put peony roots in the center of the bed, spaced out. So chickens scratch those up, but this should be quite beautiful. I'll come through and recover all this soil. This is a Belle of Georgia peach. A whole bunch of buds. And then the rest of these beds, actually it's just these 2 beds, have a mixture of daffodil and tulip bulbs planted in them. Which, again, chickens. Moving into the Redbud Grove garden from the orchard. Again, not a ton to see. The daisies got a little bit of green foliage down at the base, as well as some of the rudbeckias. As far as evergreens go, every year these get hit by somebody, and every year they push back new growth. They're a golden mops Chamaecyparis. So I don't know if I should take them out or what. I'll have to think about that. The blue globe spruce is still alive, it's still with us, so that's exciting. You've heard me say before that conifers don't do well. I have wet, heavy clay soil. It's very alkaline, doesn't drain great, and that's not what most of them want. I am pretty excited to get in here this spring though and kind of clean up the bed edges, really define them, get things moved around. I have a lot of plugs on order that I'm excited about. And especially over here. And actually, this propane tank is going to be removed. It actually fell over, just tumbled off of its blocks, rolled a little bit. So we had to have them come out. They couldn't take it then. They said they wanted to wait until the ground was harder in the summer. It's a summer project. I don't know if you can hear all the sparrows over there. But yeah, so that's going to be gone. Obviously, we're going to get this cleaned up, and then I'll have all of this space to do who knows what with. I'm thinking of ordering in a couple of larger specimen trees for right here. But yeah, time will tell. In the front here, should be able to, oh yep, tiny little pokes of the crocus coming through. I was hoping a lot of them survived. My chickens love scratching through here, so I was hoping they didn't scratch out all of the bulbs without my knowledge. But I see one. I did trim out these asters. I will move them. They're much too tall for this space, but I trimmed them out just so that the hellebores would actually be visible. So all along this path on either side is where I planted hyacinth bulbs, and I have yet to see any of them emerge. I have no reason to think that they won't. Just hasn't happened yet. But I do have a cluster of daffodil bulbs over here that are coming up. And the boxwood hedge, it's got a little bit of, winter bronzing, but if we come and kind of look into the centers, it's all very green. And it was on either side of this structure that I planted the snowdrops and more crocus bulbs. And interestingly enough, on this side, they're starting to emerge, and they haven't yet on this side. So I'm assuming it's a sunlight thing. This side gets more sun sooner. And let's see, these must be the snowdrops, because the crocus are kind of, like this little, you can see like the little fronds. I've never grown the snowdrops before though, so we will see. I could be wrong if that's what they look like when they emerge. My chickens have torn up the foxglove foliage. They've been scratching through here. And not just my chickens, but my neighbor's chickens and my neighbor's guineas especially as well. So that's fun. But yeah, there's never really much to show this time of year. But one exciting thing is the Diane witch hazel is starting to bloom. It's not all happening at the same time, which is interesting. And it looks like I will have to kind of come through and thin out some of these branches that didn't make it. But what I do have is quite lovely. And the fragrance is nice as well. It's a nice touch. On my massive list of projects, I plan on having this tree removed. When we had the maple and the walnut taken out, we discussed it with him, but because the power lines are right there, they couldn't get their truck in. They have to kind of climb it and take it out. And yeah, long story short, that just couldn't happen at the time. So hopefully soon we will get them over here to take this out. This is just an elm, not even a native elm, and all of these wispy little branches break off so easily, fall on everything. It's got a lot of dead limbs up there also, and it produces more seeds than anything I've ever experienced. It's horrible. It'll just blanket this whole garden in like an elm seed mulch, and then they germinate incredibly easily. So I spend days just picking out little elm seedlings. So anyway, yes, want it gone, and we'll put something nicer in its place. Something that probably stays a little bit smaller, not quite so big. And moving into the courtyard, obviously this is my shade garden. It's going to take a little bit for everything to flush out in here, so not much to see. I do have a new addition. I couldn't resist at the garden center, this little concrete pig. I named him Luther. I've got this basket here to protect the Darmera peltata, because the chickens like to come through here and scratch. Actually, looks like I've got a couple other, I don't know, nubs, that's what I'm calling them, little nubs from it. But yeah, not much to see in here yet. And I have this other side protected because this is the chickens' favorite dust bathing area, dust bathing area. And I have tulips in here as well as daffodils. Actually, looks like the tulips are starting to come through. Yeah, and if I let them have access to this, we would have no tulips or daffodils. And I think I've come up with a good design for this space I'm really excited about. So I can't wait to get to work on that, as well as this area. So the last thing to see is the fire pit garden, which is kind of in the same state as everything else. A little bit of daffodil pushing through, some alliums, and actually I think the hyacinths that I planted over on the other side of the fire pit garden are actually coming through, so that's interesting. But this is another big project right here. The existing drain pipe that runs through that's supposed to carry everything from our basement out, it's blocked. So it hasn't been draining all winter. We had to put this ugly pipe out just to get everything out. And now that it's warm enough, we will have to come in and dig a new French drain. I was just digging some holes to locate where the existing drain was, and I found it. And then the ducks really had a blast with this, so that's why there's a massive hole there. So yeah, like I said, there's not a ton to see, just bulbs pushing through mostly. But I have to say that the warm temperatures are really like motivating me to get things done. I have a very long list of projects to start tackling, so it's been nice to start them much earlier in the season than I normally would be able to. Normally now our yard would just be mostly a mud pit, and I can actually walk through it, and that's nice. So I'm hoping that I get some of the tedious stuff, not fun projects done, so that when spring, summer are truly here, I can just focus on the plants mostly and the design of it all. And thank you for joining me today. We'll see you next time.